Okay, beautiful souls. I am so excited to dig in today. We've got Justin Gottlieb in the house, aka the Tantra Love Coach. And he is a sexual freedom coach based in Miami, Florida, who specializes in tantric massage, fantasy fulfillment, coaching, and sexually liberating events and retreats. He educates individuals and couples on love, sex, kink, lifestyle, swinging, and relationships. And he believes that liberation and empowerment is found through acceptance, communication, and love. So, Justin, thank you so much for being here today. I have so been looking forward to this conversation. I cannot wait to dig in with you today.
As have I, and thank you so much for having me here, Christina.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. So, I would love to dig into. So, what I find so inspiring about your story is you started in corporate, right? And you shifted into being this highly sought after sexual freedom coach. Can you start to kind of walk us through that journey of like, was there a moment in time where you were like, this just isn't it in corporate? Like, let's start there. Was there a moment in time where you're like, this doesn't feel like it's in alignment?
Yeah, there was a few different moments in time that I kind of in my life was just like, this is not in alignment. I'm living someone else's idea of success. And like the first example was I was born in New York. I grew up in Jersey. I went to Penn State and then I lived in Manhattan for 9 years. And a few years in, I was just kind of like, why am I living here? Like, this is not the pace. It's not the style. There's nothing I really love about it. I think I'm just here because my family like raised me here and there's people I know here. And this is kind of what people do. They move to Manhattan after they graduate college in this area. And it took me visiting Miami and kind of like building up my own courage to be like, all right, it's time to move to Miami. Like this is a place I love. I love the beach. I love the sun. I hate the winter. Like, let's go to Miami. So I did that. And like that was like kind of the first step. And then I get to Miami, and surprisingly, like 6 months into living in Miami, I'm at a networking dinner and a guy tells me he's done this amazing personal development training and it totally changed his whole life. And I was like, yeah, I'm in the kind of corporate rat race and I'm, making good money and I look successful in everyone else's eyes and I should be so happy, but I'm not. And he's like, well, you could do this training, blah, 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 trying to enroll me. I'm just like, all right, fine, sign me up. Let's do it. So I
Mhm.
take this training and it's kind of like a business training wrapped in like spiritual teachings. And it changed everything for me. It literally made me rethink my whole life, see how I was showing up in my life, breaking through all the things that were not supporting me, and then really bringing that into my life and realizing how important it is to be in service and to really live your own truth. So that was kind of the moment and then that got me into like even thinking about like energy. Is this like a real thing? And like, are all these like nomads like crazy people and like they just don't have real jobs? And, is breath work a real thing? So all of the modalities now opened up because I was a very kind of cut and dry corporate type that was like, oh man, like all that hippie stuff is BS.
Mm. So I love this because I feel like I had kind of a similar journey where I was in corporate. I remember working in marketing and being like, oh no, I want to retire and I'm 22. Like, that's a problem. I've got a little bit of year, like some years ahead of me. And I stayed in it for like way too long, for like 15 years. And I remember being like, okay. And someone invited me, similar story, to some sort of like emotional intelligence training. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, I'll check it out. And I just had like these huge breakthroughs where I was like, oh my gosh, I've been living someone else's life. Like, this isn't even mine. I've checked all the boxes and I'm like, this is supposed to be nirvana. I'm not having fun at all. And so I was like, I have to shift something. So tell me, where did that shift happen where you're now this, sexual liberation coach, the sexual freedom coach? Like, what did that journey become? Like, you had this awakening, like, this isn't it. How did you then transition into what is now what you do?
So I was so I really went deep into that training. It was called gratitude training. It was similar to like a Landmark or LifeSpring and Tony
Love it.
Robbins kind of stuff. And so then I took a 6 month training to become a trainer for that group, basically, or like to basically give workshops. It was basically a training to become a facilitator. And as I'm going through it and I'm kind of like practicing and doing my little shtick on all the things they tell me about, I'm kind of like, they kept saying like, you don't have to do these trainings. You can use this to do whatever you want and teach whatever your passion is. And I'm like, this is definitely not my passion. I certainly don't want to be like teaching in like hotel conference rooms forever. I really want to teach in beautiful places. I don't want to work for anyone else. And this kind of gig made you like a little bit of a freelancer for these type of trainings. So I'm
Mhm.
like, well, what is my passion? And I actually took up breath work and I was doing one-on-one breath work with a really amazing breath work coach. And in it, he would start to ask me questions. And one, I was really struggling with what is my purpose? Like
Mm.
that was my big thing when you're having this kind of midlife crisis and you're in this corporate world and it was all about kind of money and status and, validating yourself in various ways. It started to be like, well, what's my real purpose here? Like when I die, what am I going to look back on and be like, this is my legacy. I'm really proud of this. This is how I spent every hour, every minute of my day. And I don't have many regrets. So when that kind of came through, it was like, well, I've always had this kind of draw towards the things that were sexual, free, adventurous, rebellious, like in high school, I was going to like a nude beach. Like no one was really doing that. I
No,
was
it
kind of
wasn't.
giving tantra massages as like a teenager. Like I didn't know what it was, but I was doing it. And I was
Mhm.
always interested in women and dating. And it was something that, I think a lot of people might have shame around or feel like, oh, you're just like a bro or whatever. But I didn't let any of that stop me. I was just kind of like, there's clearly something here because I'm different from other people in this. I am an outlier in my passion towards it. So then it kind of became like, well, what would I do with that? And as I'm kind of going through this spiritual transformation and all that, the only thing in the spiritual realm that actually accepts, actually, in probably all of the teachings I've ever heard of, the only that truly accepts our sexuality, truly accepts us as sexual beings, and doesn't say, don't have sex till you're married or don't touch yourself. It says the opposite. And it really is Tantra. There's nothing else I've seen. And that really just had me go, this is probably it, but then how am I going to do it? And then that took some more work in figuring out, well, what would I want to do in Tantra?
Mm. It's so cool how we have these puzzle pieces when we're younger. Like you were talking about, like as a teen, like you were like, I loved going to nudist beaches and like, giving massages and all of these things. And like when I look back on my own experience as a child, I'm like, man, I was doing a lot of the things I'm doing now. Like even in like a little subtle way. Like I would like put all my little teddy bears out and I'd teach them something. It was like I wanted to be like a teacher. And then there would be other things where it was like, little things that would just come online that I was like, man, like because I teach on wealth energetics and I always like what I remember in middle school, my dad was like, you got straight A's. I want to get you something like, and I'm like, cool. I want a cash register, like a real one. And he's like, that's so weird. Okay. Like, so it was like, I don't know why, but at 14, I just wanted to be able to click some buttons and organize cash. And there was something about it that I just look back and I'm like, okay, like I found these little puzzle pieces that I know, like when people are building something, it's so important to even look back at like, what did I love to do when I was younger? Because sometimes we lose what's fun for us when we're older. Like it's like we get so caught up in the grind that I'm like, before you were like inhibited, like what did that look like when you were younger to just be free and to have fun? Like, did you run on the nudist beaches? Like, did you let yourself just like explore like spaces that felt right for you? So I love that you brought that key in because I think that's one of those that like it feels so simple, but there's so much there that we can utilize to kind of unpack stepping into this next journey. And so what I love about what you've created is, you've created your own job title, your own niche, like your own industry. And I think that's so cool. So what gave you that courage to be like, I'm going to go first? Like no one else is doing this. Like was there something inside? You said you're rebellious. Maybe it's like, all right, no one's else doing it. Like, I want to do it. What else was it that kind of gave you the courage to be like, I'm going first?
Yeah, I think I went into the Tantra world as I needed to fit myself in. So like I found myself like wearing the clothes that the Tantra people would wear. And I found myself kind of being just like fitting into those communities. And it wasn't very long before I was like, this isn't really me. And I actually feel fake. I feel inauthentic trying to fit myself in there instead of who am I? And then how do I take this amazing teaching and take all these things that I've learned and then distill that down to make it my own and then be in service to others. So it was a little bit of like trying it out and then being like, this isn't me. And I still like cringe when I look back and seeing myself in those early photos and be like, I can't
Mhm.
believe I was wearing that. I can't believe I was
Uh-huh.
saying those words in that way. Like I was trying to fit in the mold. So once that really was not working for me, I was like, okay, hold on. Like, what are the things that make me special and make me me? I'm like, nobody in this Tantra world has really come from the corporate world. Very few people have come that have this kind of business acumen. Very few have this idea of actually how to sell. There was really no high-end version of Tantra massage or Tantra in general. It was always kind of very hippie, vanilla, hippie, crunchy kind of vibes. And like, that's great. And that's great that it's there. But I'm like, why is nobody doing this? And I realized like, there's not many people that are giving up their cushy corporate jobs to come and teach Tantra. So, like, I'm one of the first that's going to do this in this way. And I'm going to make a 5-star service. I'm going to make a 6+ figure business. and I'm
Mhm.
gonna have to really do it my way. And that means like kind of being a little more cutthroat than others. That means like not just being to there to like say yes to whatever everyone wants that's already in that community, because sometimes they have to go on their journey, right? And like there's ways you can support people, but also you have to make your brand and then inspire people and be a leader there. And I noticed that a lot of people step into new industries and they just follow and they follow and they follow, and no matter what they do, they kind of end up with the same issues that maybe I had in the corporate world. It's like you just end up kind of with a boss or a mentor or somebody, and you're just kind of not creating your own thing. And that's why I came up with the term Tantrapreneur, because
Mhm.
I also kind of
Mhm.
like you, like I was selling like they had like the 4 packs of Bubblicious bubble gum. I was breaking them up and selling them for $1 each. I was an
Nice.
entrepreneur from the start. I went to
Uh-huh.
Chinatown to buy those like fake Oakley sunglasses and sell them at
Oh,
school. Like I
yes.
knew I was an entrepreneur. But I was kind of taught like, you have to have benefits, you have to have a 401k, you can't like just go out and get another job if you don't like the one you want, you have to have another one planned. So it was like this safety net that I didn't really need, that was in my mind all the time. So it really took the work to get out of the mindset, to get out of the indoctrination and say, okay, not only am I going to be an entrepreneur, but I'm going to be a tantrapreneur. I'm going to actually teach this stuff and actually have my own business. And I had certain rules that I set for myself when I left the corporate world that I was going to abide by no matter what.
Mm. What were those rules? Now you've got me really curious. Yeah.
Yeah, I left
Yeah.
you with a cliffhanger there. You like
I know
that?
exactly. I'm like, and I need to know.
One is I have to be my own boss. I
Yeah.
absolutely wanted to set my own schedule, and I didn't want it to have to ever ask anyone ever again, could I take off work for this? Can I do that?
Mm.
So that was one, that was 100%. I had to have no cap to how much money I could make. Like I did
Mhm.
not want anything that would be capped. I had to work in beautiful places. So like
Mm.
whether that meant building the most luxurious tantra temple in my home, which I have in the
Mm.
next room over,
Yes.
great. If that means I'm traveling the world and doing private retreats in beautiful places or public retreats in beautiful places or working with clients in their beautiful mansions, like great. But I was not going to go back to like hotel conference rooms or, these fluorescent light offices I was working in finance. So those were the main things. And then also the last one, which was the most important to me after being in the corporate world, was being in service. Right. I
Yeah.
had to be in service to humanity. Otherwise, like, what is this all for? At least that's what I got from my spiritual teachings. I wanted to be giving back in every day that I do, not just being the guy who gives, millions of dollars at the end of his life or goes and like gives money to charity, but like, how am I supporting people every day? Because I could write a book and maybe have an impact. I could do all these things, or I could do one-on-one sessions, or I could do retreats and have people change their lives and have that butterfly effect fan
Mm.
out to the rest of the world. And I'll never know how many lives I impacted or how my impact shifted the world, but I know that I'm doing it and I feel really fulfilled in it every day.
Mm. So good. I resonate with every single one of those rules. Like that's exactly what I live by as well. Because I think that was the big thing that I had. I was so turned off by in the corporate world is I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Or actually, I didn't even call it that. I just knew I just was so rubbed the wrong way by the way that things were done in corporate that I was like, I know that it's not this. Okay, what is it? And then it took me a little bit to find myself in that. But to your point, those things were the ones where I was like, I don't want to have to ask for permission. I want to be able to serve in the way that feels most soul aligned. So I don't want someone to tell me, oh, it has to fall under this cap of how much you can, serve or sell. And it's like, what if I want to serve more? What if I want to lean in more? So the power of that, of just recognizing what I'm available for and what I'm not, is really powerful in business and entrepreneurship. And I love that you brought that up because even as far as like boundaries within your what you create, the the containers that you create, I'm positive there are sacred boundaries that are created there that also help to facilitate like safe containers for people in both life and within the context that you're holding. But what I really loved too that you were talking about as you were starting to really tune into this next level version of yourself was you created it your way. Like you tested it. At first, you were like, I'm going to try on the different garbs and, like whatever that feels like. And it didn't feel like you. And sometimes we have to test it to find ourselves again. And I fall into that as well, where I am not your typical shaman. Like, I am just like, when you look at me, you don't think, like, oh, yeah, she's a shaman, Like, I remember someone was interviewing me for Forbes. She's like, you're the shaman that wears Chanel. I'm like, well, that's like a nice name. But like honestly, like I just like I don't wear the things that normally shamans wear because there's certain aspects of me that want to be expressed in different ways. And what I love about that you've done is now your people can find you that need that version of you that's so authentically you because now you're meeting them in a space that's relatable. You know what I mean? Because it's like there are these people in corporate or these people in like these high CEO roles or wherever they are, these C-suite roles that are like, I need someone that I can actually connect to that gets me, that I can learn about Tantra. I can find the God in everything and I can actually take this to the next level. So I love that that makes you a bridge for this entire population that gets you and you get them by not falling into the category of everyone else. I think that's really powerful.
I think that brings up another good point because like when I started really thinking about this, I was like, well, I want to teach Tantra in a way that is modern, grounded, and accessible. And
Mhm.
accessible was really important to me because like
Yes.
I'd go to various different Tantra workshops and I'd get a different definition of Tantra everywhere I went. And most of
Mm.
them were not really, they were just someone repeating the Sanskrit definition or some kind
Mm.
of thing they heard from some other teacher. And I'm like, did they ever internalize this and like think about what they're telling people? Like
Mm.
Tantra means expansion. Okay, like what? What? So how are
Uh-huh.
we going to explain that? How am I going to walk around my life just going expansion, expansion? Like
I'm
not
an
really, right?
expansionist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or how am I? Or it means weaving. Also, it means weaving and expansion. You know, it means I've heard it as a system or a doctrine and like all these different terms because Sanskrit always has a million different definitions for one or two words within one word, and
Mm.
that's great if you are more in the esoteric, but if you're like a regular couple that's in the corporate world and they want to get away and they want to learn about tantra and they want to improve their relationship and they want to be able to talk about sex freely, like my definition of tantra was created for them and it's about acceptance, connection, presence, and love. And those are the four pillars. And if you could just say tantra's acceptance, and anyone in the world will get that, and we can dive deeper into it. But if you walk around accepting yourself, accepting your emotions, accepting your body, accepting your sexuality, you're going to be
Mm.
living much more tantrically than the person who's resisting everything that is. So that was the distillation that I took from my many years of learning tantra and exploring and experiencing it so that people could get it. And when they come to me, it's kind of like people like pick their demographic, but then they don't usually like think about like, how do I actually speak to them in the most amazing way that will literally draw them in? Especially, how do I
Mm.
speak to them differently than other people doing this? And I
Mm.
found that that's allowed me to attract the exact audience that I wanted, kind of where I came from, right? So I attract much more of the wealthy corporate types or just regular people who don't necessarily want to go to a 7-day silent meditation to learn what
Mm.
meditation is. They don't want to
Mm.
go to a week-long like woo-woo spiritual tantra retreat to go with their wife who like maybe they don't want to learn it that way. They want to
Mm.
learn it in a way that they could go to the same kind of business meeting and maybe the same kind of training that I went to that opened me up. So to really not just copy everyone else's formula, but to create your own, get clear on what the demographic is, and then how will you speak to them? And for me, I didn't want to change the way I speak, the way I look, the way anything. I wanted to come and be me and then also teach Tantra.
Mm. I love that. And I'm curious, what do your sessions look like? Like what do these containers look like when let's say like you said a couple, like that's like these they're in this high corporate realm and they're wanting to maybe explore with one another. Like what does that look like for someone who's wanting to step into the world of tantra? Are your ideal clients new to tantra? Have they been in it for a little while? Like share with me a little bit more about like what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think it's mainly people that are generally pretty new, and it's people that don't have a lot of time, or maybe they don't have a lot
Mm.
of availability for community. Like they can't just go to
Mm.
tantra workshops all day long, or maybe they don't
Yeah.
live somewhere where that's even available. So it's a
Mhm.
lot of people who know that they want to explore their, and I really focus more on neo tantra and more in the realms of like red tantra, which is the sexual side, right? That was another thing is I saw, well, what is like the biggest need here? And there wasn't many people in the tantra world that were really just talking about the sexual side. In fact, almost every workshop I went to, the first thing they'd say is tantra isn't just about sex. And it's
Mhm.
not, it's probably 10% of tantra, but the fact is that's probably the most needed part. And that's also part of
Mm.
my kind of thing I wanted to do when I switched out of the corporate world was like, where am I going to be most needed? What is like the key need for the world? And to me, from Tantra, it was the sexual side. So
Mhm.
now people come to me and they want to explore sexuality. Maybe it's through Tantra massage.
Mhm.
Maybe it is through connection exercises that I do with them. Maybe it's through a newer realm that I've opened up, which is fantasy fulfillment experiences. I work a lot with the lifestyle or AKA swinger community. I also consult for a swinger sex club here in Miami. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of really full spectrum when it comes to sexuality. It's not just the spiritual tantra side, but I bring that foundation to everything I teach. So whether you are a lifestyle swinger who's never heard the word Tantra, you come to me and you want to have fantasy fulfillment experiences, you want to learn how to navigate communities for sex parties, or how do you have safe conversations with people to explore the swinger lifestyle, you're going to get a foundation of Tantra as well. So it's all kind of baked into how I teach. And I decided to give every availability, because some people want it private. Other people really want it in a group. Other people want virtual coaching. So I really offered everything. And I'm not out here pushing one or the other. I'm really just like, here's what I have, here's what I talk about. And those that want to come to me, they do come to me. And then I really, almost everything I do is kind of custom for each client.
Mm. So I love this. And I love that you're bringing up some really cool points, which is like, first you had the spark, the idea, like, I want to start to lean into Tantra and I want to be able to guide people, facilitate that. And now what I was kind of hearing you say is how you started to really scale that as a business. And it's sounding like you like really magnetized in clients that helped you better understand, how can I be a conduit for this teaching and for this embodiment. And so is that how that kind of helped you scale the business, is by magnetizing people in, feeling into your own body and saying, is that how I want to serve? Like, what helped you scale the business to what it is today?
I think it was the closer and closer I got to my authentic self in my business, was the more it scaled. Like it became easier and easier. Like people don't realize that when you're kind of trying to fit a cookie cutter formula,
Yes.
there's no way you can be fully authentic. And then there's no way you're going to get clients, because everyone can smell your bullshit. Like I hate to
Mm,
say it, but everyone that's on Instagram doing all the same formulas of marketing and all these programs and whatever, if you're not being your true self, if you're not creating something unique, you're just like everyone else, and people see that. So what happened was, I was kind of fitting into the look and the feel of a tantra person. Then I got out of that, but then I was still kind of marketing to the typical tantra spiritual community people. Well, they didn't have a lot of money. They weren't really resonating with the high-end service or the prices that I had.
mhm,
Plus, there was like a whole nother realm that I discovered through the years, that was like people that really needed clinical trauma therapy and were coming to
mm,
Tantra facilitators to like heal that trauma. And
mhm,
yes, is it possible to heal in massages and a lot of this time? Of course it is. But after a lot of experiences that I had, and what I saw in that is that some people needed a clinical setting and deeper help, someone that's licensed and certified and that kind of stuff. And we can't
mm,
try to fill that void there by giving tantra massages. Or for me, where I was really focused more on the sexual and the pleasure and all of that, I didn't want to be there anymore. The world changed as well. So as all that happened, I'm stepping more and more into my authentic self, rather than trying to fit into where the world was going. And
mm,
now it kind of had a big pendulum swing shift. And for me, it said, you know what? This is time to really work more with like, where am I at? What do I do in my life? I don't really go to a lot of like spiritual events. I end up at like really fun music festivals. I go to swinger events. I go to lifestyle parties. I go to sex parties all over the world. I love that kind of more hedonistic experience of life, but bringing the spiritual undertones, bringing the depth, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm like, well, why am I not really just working with that audience, as well as being me, as well as speaking to that audience? So as I kind of continue to go more and more into who I truly am, and you have to go through a process to figure out who you are, because a lot of people think they know who they are, but they
mm,
don't, because they're actually living a life through their own, through society or whatever's conditioning, indoctrination. Trauma is actually moving through how they're going to live their life, and we don't realize that. So you have to kind of look at, how do I figure out who I really am? How do I find out what my actual truths are in this world? And then if those are my truths, then you cannot wobble. You cannot wobble from them for anything.
mhm,
And this is the problem that a lot of people do, is they'll virtue signal, or they're just going to stand there and be like, well, this is what's in vogue now, so I'm going to talk about this. Or like,
mhm,
well, I got to say these terms this way because otherwise I'll be canceled or offensive to people. And it's like, no, I can't tell you how many people have come to me on my Instagram or whatever and basically told me, well, you should be doing it this way, or why are you saying these words and whatever. And back in the day, I'm so mad at myself. I would cave. I would cave and I
mm,
would say things that just don't resonate with me, because I'm like, well,
yeah,
I don't want to get in trouble with this audience. And then
mm,
I started to say, there's so many people out there that are sick of this, and that they don't
mhm,
want to see someone who's going to shift and say those words, or they're going to shift and they're going to change their whole business because of that. Or, oh, I want to be so inclusive that like, I don't even
mhm,
have any like pillar to stand on anymore.
Yes.
So the Tantra world became so much of that, and the woke culture became so much of that, that I just said, you know what? Like, I'm just going to be who I am, and whoever likes it,
Mhm.
likes it. And honestly, I didn't really care what happened. And I think you have to
Mhm.
stop caring and thinking about whatever other people think and like what might
Mhm.
happen if, and just live your life in your truth. And like, don't let anyone wobble you from that.
That is so accurate. I love that so much because as you're living in this divine alignment, which like honestly, when I'm living in my divine alignment, it's going to attract the people in that are most meant to be there, and the people that aren't vibrating on that frequency, high, low, wherever it is, are going to probably be repelled by that. And that's okay. That's kind of like the energy game of saying, like, now people can actually find me because I'm being neon green versus a forest green that's kind of blending into everything else. And to your point, where we're watering everything down, it's like, what is the message? What does he or she stand for? Like, I don't even understand you and like what it is you want and what you like actually believe to be true. And that's very unsettling for our nervous system when we don't know where someone stands. Like, even if we don't agree with them, it's more settling to our nervous system to know where they stand than to have like this like question mark, like they're saying one thing, but I think they're doing another. Like that on like a energetic perspective is more unsettling. So I just love that like through that trial and error, you were like, I'm just going to be 100% me and see how that works. And that was a scalable tactic. So I just love that that's what came through. So powerful. And I'm curious for someone who's like, I'm trying to find myself, I'm trying to find my truths. What would you tell them? Like, was there something that you did, or was it into an intuitive feeling that helped you find yourself, your truth? Like, what does that feel like, or what did you do to kind of find yourself in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was a lot of trial and error, and then I ended up kind of writing it down and being like, what do you actually need to do to find your truth, to like live in your authenticity? Because it's not as simple as just being like, oh, what do I like, or what is my unique gift? It's more than that. First you have to heal. Healing is the first step, because if we're not looking consciously at like what might be driving us, we don't know who we really are. And a lot of times it is our parents told us, and maybe they were very not my parents were amazing, but the idea that I was kind of brought up on was that you have to get good grades to get into a good college, to get a good job, to make a lot of money so you could have a family and, be successful and blah, 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 make the family proud. And it wasn't even a heavy, heavy, like, hardcore, you need to be a doctor. It wasn't that, but it was just the energy that I lived in. So I had to eventually like take that apart and go like, well, that's actually conditioning and indoctrination, and it's not actually what I want. I wish looking back that like I took all the money that it was invested in education and put it into like myself, and I did like the different types of teachings that resonated with me and invested in my own businesses early on. But I'm also not regretting the way that things went, because it made me who I am, and I was able to wiggle out of it. But a lot of people won't take that first step and be conscious to what's driving them. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of fear driving them because of trauma. It could be
Mhm.
sexual trauma, it could be emotional abuse or physical
Mhm.
abuse that happened early on that they've kind of shut away or repressed. This is why I think that it's so important to go and get healing from a therapist, go get tantra massages from people you trust, and really start to see like what's stuck in my body, what's stuck in my mind, what might be stuck in my soul. Of course, I think doing plant medicine and shamanic work and things like that is extremely important, so that you can just shake whatever isn't working for you necessarily and know what really is the true you. So that's the first step, is healing. And then the next is, so you kind of like, okay, so now you know your true self. You figured out through the healing. And healing, of course, is a lifelong process. We get it. But also, like, if you know that you're not being driven by something else, I consider that you've healed some of the things from your past. Now it's experiment and explore. Like, how do we experiment with the world? How do I explore with this version of now who I know I am? What do I like? What actually excites me? What would I want to do if I wasn't getting paid for this in my job? And like, I sometimes would pay to do what I do for my job. Like, forget about doing it for free. I would pay to do it. So that's
Mhm.
like the next level of like, all right, I know that I love this. And also realize that that might change, right? What I wanted to do with the whole Tantra world has changed now. And now I'm moving into kind of a different chapter with who I'm working with and how I'm doing that. But you need to take the time to explore. That means travel. That means like talk to a lot of different people. Do not stay in these bubbles where everybody's kind of in the same vibe, telling you the same kind of things. Everyone's in the same rat race. After that, you're now kind of figured out the things who you are, the things you want to do, how you want to present in the world. And then it comes into mastery, right? So now it's
Mhm.
like, can I communicate the things that I'm doing flawlessly? Can I speak with confidence? Can I get up in front of a group and share this? Can I host my own events or whatever it is that you want to do? Can I be the CEO that I really want to be? Or is there more work to be done?
Mm.
And to me, like everyone can get to mastery. And it doesn't mean you have to be the CEO, but you can get to the mastery of whatever it is that you've experimented and explored after healing to find
Mhm.
what your true, amazing, limitless life is going to be.
And I was literally over here like clapping, like, yes. Like when I like step one, let it be healing because these are the things that we've picked up that we believe are the truth. And it's like, it's just a truth. And I always say there's like an infinite amount of truths out there. Does that one feel good in your body or does it not? Because there were a lot of truths that I was holding on to that I was like, oh, this is just how the world operates. And it's like, well, how does that feel in your body? So I always ask my clients, how does that one feel in your body though? And they're like, it feels terrible. I'm like, then it's not your truth. It's not your divine truth. It's a truth. It's not your divine truth. And so that has always been like one of those catalysts where I just recognize like, how does this feel in my body? And taking it to the next level of just releasing it from your mind, body, and soul so you can expand into that embodiment piece, the mastery piece, like you were saying. Like, if energy is taking up all this space and it's old energy, I always say when we move it, now you can expand into what, like, who you actually deeply, truly are underneath all of that. And I believe that's that mastery piece is like there's space to expand, there's space to embody. And that feels so good to be around when someone is embodied in what they say, similar to what we were talking about before. So I just absolutely love those steps of living your most unlimited, untamed, liberated life. So,
I want to say something else just to what you said
yes,
around healing,
please. Yeah.
because like when you say like, oh, how does that feel in your body? As
Mhm.
a tantra massage practitioner,
Mm.
I've seen a lot of bodies that are not really truly their body, right? Like, so they have had a
Mhm.
lot of stuck energy. They have a lot of trauma. So it's like, well, how does that feel in your body right now? Might be like, oh, I don't want to step anywhere near that because your body is in a trauma reaction, right? Like you were scared
Mhm.
because you got jumped walking down an alley one day, and now it's like every time you walk down an alley, you don't want to go there. So like, who are you trusting your body? And whose
Yeah.
body is it, right? Is it your body that's saying this, or is it the trauma or the things that happened to you that's saying that? So that's why that heal has to go way deeper than just, I'm going to talk to a therapist. It needs to go into the body so that when
Yes.
someone like you asks that question, how does it feel in the body? You know that it's coming from your true source, from your truth.
Man, that is so, I'm so glad that you added that in because so often we're trying to find the answers like in our mind and it's like I can't rationalize it. And it's like sometimes the things we're experiencing in our body are not rational. They're just a reaction to something. And so I love that's why I'm so grateful that you're doing this body work with people too, because it really is this catalyst to releasing what we've been holding on to, what we've been storing that we might not even know that's there. And sometimes we don't even know where it's coming from, but it'll manifest as pain. It'll manifest as numbness, as locking up, like you were saying. So, the power of just being able to witness your body potentially relaxing for the first time. I mean, what a gift. Like, I'm so grateful for everything that you're doing on behalf of your soul, on behalf of humanity. Like, I could talk to you for like 20 more hours. Like, honestly, I'm so, so grateful for all the beauty and the wisdom that you brought in this space. So, for everyone that's tuning in that is like, I need more of you, like, where can they connect with you? How can they lean in and experience more of your magic?
Pretty much everything for me is Tantra Love Coach. So I'm Tantra Love Coach on Instagram, tantralovecoach.com. I'm in the process of creating a fantasy archetype quiz so that people can
Cool.
really get clear on like what archetype of fantasies are they and answer some questions that maybe they've never been asked around what kind of turns them on. I have the Tantra Love Retreat, which I do with Leola, who is also on your podcast. And that is going to be in September. We have our level 1, which is our 7th, I believe, retreat. And it always sells out. It's an amazing experience. It's co-ed. If you want to get the best value pound for pound to go to like a Tantra retreat experience, this is it. And you can go as a couple, you could go as an individual. And then we have our level 2 that's going to be 2 days after that. And that's only for people who've completed level 1 or have extensive experience in the Tantra world. And a lot of everything else I do is here in Miami, or I travel the world for different events and I do a lot of private work with couples and singles who want to expand their sexual pleasure, their
Mm.
communication. And also, I do consulting for Miami Velvet. So if you're in Miami and you want to come to a really cool swinger sex club and experience what that's
Mm.
all like, you can reach out to me, Tantra Love Coach on Instagram or on my website.
I love it. Oh, Justin, there's so many places for people to play. I'm so grateful for you and for everything that you brought into the space, the trueness, the realness, the authenticity that you brought into this, and that you're just living your passion and purpose. And it's just so beautiful to witness. So, thank you so much for joining us today. And honestly, for all of the listeners that are tuning in, we are so grateful that you shared with us your most precious resource, your time. We're sending you so much light and love. And until next time, mwah.